Once upon a time, there was a boy who was afraid of death. He grew up in a house full of warmth and books and people who loved him. His name was Victor Frankenstein. From a very young age, Victor believed that the world had more secrets in it than anyone had yet uncovered, and that if you were brilliant enough, and brave enough, and willing to go far enough, you could find them. Victor was indeed brilliant, and brave, and willing to go very, very far. When Victor was young, he lost his mother. She died of a fever, quietly, the way people did back then, and the loss settled into him like a stone dropped into still water. The ripples would stay with him for the rest of his life. But instead of learning how to grieve, Victor learned something else. He learned to be angry at death itself. Deep down in the architecture of his mind, he decided that death was a problem to be solved. So he went to university, and in the cold stone halls of Ingolstadt, surrounded by chemistry and anatomy, and the quiet company of the very determined, Victor began to ask his question out loud. What is the spark of life? Where does it come from? And could someone put it back once it had faded away? He stopped sleeping. He stopped writing home. He haunted graveyards and laboratories, and let these questions consume every moment of his existence. Then, one stormy night, something clicked. Victor had built a creature, 8 feet tall, assembled from pieces of cadavers he had stitched together. When the creature opened its eyes for the very first time and looked at its creator, Victor ran. He left. Just like that. He could not stand the sight of what he had made. Now, the creature was alone, a monster with no place to call home. Full of sadness, the creature wandered out into a world he never asked to be in, a world that rejected him before he even had a chance. He was huge and frightening, and everywhere he went, people screamed and threw things and ran. He was hungry and cold, and there was no one there to explain to him what he was, or why, or what he was even supposed to do in this cold, cruel world full of rejection. Eventually, he found a cottage where a small family lived. A father, a son, a daughter. They were poor and gentle and kind to each other. The creature found a crack in the wall of their woodshed, and he watched them, day after day, through that crack. He learned their language by listening. He learned about love, and in a secret, quiet way, he came to think of them as his family. For months, he hid in secret, doing small acts of kindness for the family. He chopped wood at night, cleared the path when it snowed, and slowly, carefully, he made a plan. The father was blind and could not see his face, so the creature would speak to him first and make an introduction. He knocked on the door one afternoon, and the old man let him in. They talked, and the creature was warm and gentle and real. And for a brief moment, everything was okay. Then, the family came home. Suddenly, there was screaming and chaos and panic. The family fled and never came back. Once again, the creature was alone. He stood in the empty cottage for a long time. Then he burned it to the ground. He made his way to Geneva, to the city where Victor had grown up, and there he met a little boy, Victor's youngest brother, William. The boy looked at the creature's face and said the name, Frankenstein. And something in the creature broke. He killed the boy. And then, perhaps because he was in so much pain, or simply because he had learned cruelty from a world that had been cruel to him, he let someone else take the blame. A young woman named Justine, who was kind and innocent, and who had done nothing at all. She was tried and convicted, and executed. Victor, the monster's maker, knew the truth, but chose to remain silent. One day, the creature found Victor on a glacier. There, in the gray ice and howling wind, he made him an offer. "Make me a companion," he said. "I am not evil by nature. I was made evil by loneliness. Give me someone to love and I will disappear. You will never hear from me again." Victor understood. He agreed and traveled to a remote island to begin his terrible work again. But one night, as he was about to finish, he stopped. He looked at what he was building and thought, what if there are two of them? What if they have children? Look at the misery I've already brought to this world. Rather than finishing the job, he destroyed her. The second creature, unmade before she even had a chance. But Victor's first creation was watching through the window, waiting patiently for his love to come to life. "You have chosen," he said. "So have I." Everything Victor loved would die soon after. His dearest friend, his bride, his father not long after, who simply could not bear such grief. Victor had built a monument to loss, and found himself enshrined within it. One day, something shifted in Victor. The grief burned off, leaving behind a cold, indifferent fury. He vowed to find the creature and end the nightmare he began. Trekking north, Victor followed tracks in the snow that led him further and further into the ice. Eventually, frostbitten, hollow, and nearly dead, Victor was discovered by a man named Walton, an explorer, stuck in the Arctic on an ice-locked ship. He pulled the weary wanderer aboard, and with his last bit of strength, Victor looked up at his rescuer and said, "I will tell you a story. Listen carefully. Let it be a warning." And when he had finished telling his story, Victor Frankenstein drew his final breath. The crew stood on the deck. The ship was quiet. The creature appeared. He came through the window of the cabin and stood over the body of the man who had made him. And he wept. Not with triumph, but with something that looked very much like love, or grief, or some emotion that had no clear name at all. He was the only one, the creature said. The only one who should have known me. And he never did. He told Walton he would go north, further north than anyone had ever gone. There, he would build a fire, and climb into it, and leave the nightmare he had been brought into. Then he dropped from the window, and was carried away by the ice and the dark, and he was never seen again. Two souls, chasing each other to the end of the world. One who wanted to be God, and one who wanted to be loved. Neither got what they wanted. And as the ice consumed both their stories, the world moved on, and then forgot. If you'd like to hear another story, well, you know what to do.